Well, hello, everyone. Let's try this again. Hello, everyone. All right, it's the end of the session, and I'm going to keep you awake before this last break here. So, when I say the name NASA, what image immediately comes to your mind? Would it be this? How many of you see this in your minds when I say NASA? Okay, a few of you do. And there are others that know that NASA actually does quite a bit of aeronautics research, talking about, the aircraft body changes, quieter jet engines, and also the software tools required for air traffic control. But this audience is very familiar with the fact that we have a very large science portfolio and capability to actually improve the quality of life not only here, but abroad, discovering the secrets of our universe, searching for life elsewhere, and safeguarding and improving life right here on Earth. And we actually take the technology and the data that we get from the missions that we do to apply them back to improving the quality of life right here on planet Earth. But today, I'd like to kind of shift your focus just a little bit, your idea of what you think about when you say NASA, and view us as the innovation engine that we are. And let's talk about that for quite a minute. Now, he mentioned that we have this Artemis program. He didn't say the name, but the name is the Artemis program. And that is a program where NASA is working with the whole global community through the Artemis Accords, which will also talk about policy and how do we handle ourselves when we're there. But this Artemis program, all of us have the objective of actually going back to the moon, using the moon as a proving ground so that we can test out technologies and capabilities and get ready for our ultimate destination, which will be Mars. And what we're talking about is having a sustainable human presence on Mars. We're not talking about, even for moon, we're not talking about just going and planting a flag. We're talking about actually having humans live there, right, for an extended period of time. And so, in order to do that, let's fast forward to the year 2100. And if you all will just humor me, just for a little bit here during this short period of time that we've got, I want you to kind of suspend your idea of what you believe is possible today and what is not possible today. Because in order for us to actually live on a planetary body, we've got to get way outside of our box. We've got to start thinking about things in a very different way than we think about them today, because we're going to have to invent a whole new set of capabilities. In 2100, imagine that this is where we are. We've conquered so many obstacles, and we actually have cities on Mars. In order for that kind of thing to happen, we have to come up with totally new ways of producing oxygen, water, and energy. Just as he mentioned, we're already doing that on a small scale, but imagine doing that in a whole different arena where you have to have enough of it to fuel a whole city. Sustainable food sources. There's so much research going on today in that. And also advanced farming and food technology. Talk about the drilling and all of those things that you need. We've got to now ramp that up by 1,000 to go beyond the capability that we've got today. And on top of that, we're going to have health challenges. There are going to be bacteria and viruses that we've never come in contact with before. And we all know how we handled ourselves with COVID, right? That was something we could not get our arms around quickly enough to not lose hundreds of thousands or million lives across the whole globe when it came to COVID. Imagine if we get somewhere there and we haven't figured out how to understand what we're looking at, do a mitigation and do a cure very quickly, we'll wipe out the whole human race in a matter of weeks if we're dealing with something really extreme there. So also, when you think about health, we're not going to be able to take an MRI machine with us to any other planetary body. So we're going to have special sensors that you can put on or about the body so that you can see what's happening on the inside, be able to take a heart out of the body, having doctors around looking virtually at this, be able to spin that heart around in the room, be able to peel it open and look at the vessels and veins on the inside of that heart so that you can see where a blockage might be and know exactly what kind of treatment needs to happen to someone on the surface of another planet in order to be able to save their lives quickly. We'll have to do more research in habitats, 3D habitats and inflatable habitats. The reason it's important to have these inflatable habitats, you saw one presentation earlier talking about the lava tubes, right? Well, we will be exploring those lava tubes on other planetary bodies looking for ice. And so you'll have to do the observations above ground to be able to determine where those lava tubes might be that have ice. Then the robots will go through those lava tubes looking for the ice. They'll have cameras on the front of them. And the cool thing about it is we'll want to be streaming that back to the classrooms all around the world. So the kids, the media, and everyone will be able to see exactly what we're seeing at the same time. Imagine what kind of things we'll see for the first time. And what we really want to do, since we're talking about streaming and seeing live, we're going to want to use quantum communication and beyond to actually be able to do connecting the planets to each other, interplanetary communications. And what I would love is for us to be able to reduce lag time. And I know for those of you that are engineers and physicists, you're saying, but you can't go faster than the speed of light. There are laws of physics that we have to conquer. But with our younger generation, we have to start thinking of ways and finding out ways where we can dispel some of those theories that we've held on so tightly to in the past. So it's going to take some real thinking outside the box. And why is communication, very fast, rapid communication, so important? Because when you have humans living on the surface of the moon or Mars, there are these solar flares that are happening constantly, spitting out X-rays and gamma rays. And for the Apollo program, if they had gone 1 week later, there was a solar event, everybody would have been dead, because there's not a way to protect those humans on the surface from the radiation and X-rays that are necessary. So we are watching what's happening on the sun, and we are sending notification back down to the ground with a handheld device and letting those astronauts know and the people who live there, you have X amount of time to get to the safest location so that you will not be harmed by the event that's happening around you. But then when you think about how do you get the safest place, you think about navigation. How are they supposed to navigate on the surface of the moon with no GPS system? And as you know, GPS systems work such that you have 32 satellites orbiting around this Earth. You have to have 4 of those satellites that triangulate on a person to tell you exactly where you are. That's how your GPS works on your phone, to tell you where you are and how to get around. The problem is, when you're on the moon, we don't have a GPS system. And can you imagine putting 32 satellites around the moon and then 32 more around Mars? Every planetary body we go to, that's just not realistic. So how about instead of using satellites, we use neutron stars? And you're like, neutron stars, what are those? Neutron stars are the supernova explosions that happen at the end of some star's lifetime. They are big as a city, but the mass of 2 suns compressed down to that one little star. They are the strongest magnets that we know, and they have radiation coming out of the poles. And it's like a light, like a beacon. And you can only see that light when it's pointed right at the Earth. They spin hundreds of times per second, and they're so precise that we can use them just like the atomic clocks that we see in the GPS system. And so instead of having to replace them, and because there are 2,000 known neutron stars right now, and there are potentially millions of other ones, they have lifetimes millions of years long, you don't have to replace them like you would with satellites. So you just use 4 of these neutron stars to triangulate your location, and you can have very precise interplanetary navigation, and you don't have to worry about bad actors that may want to disrupt your GPS systems and eliminate you from being able to see in wartime and other places where you're going. And so as you look at those type of things, let's come back down to Earth for a minute. Every time you have these impossible missions and very difficult challenges of objectives that you're trying to achieve, we have to invent whole new technologies and capabilities in order to be able to achieve them. And so we take those technologies and then we transfer them to private industry to improve the quality of life for everyone. One example of that, how many of you have heard of the company Speedo that does swimsuits? Yeah. So Speedo came to us and said, NASA, you do a lot of drag and friction reduction for aircraft. Can you help us with drag and friction reduction for swimsuits? And we said, sure. So we worked with them on the LZR Racer, and we developed this swimsuit that reduced drag so significantly. 1 month after we hit the market with this swimsuit, in the 2008 Olympics, the swimmers that wore this swimsuit broke 13 world records, and that was a major accomplishment. Another example, we had a high school football student, and a professional football student that were practicing football in the heat of the summer. Both of them had heat strokes and died within 1 week of each other. In the United States, the media got involved. Everyone was upset. Why in the world do you have these people outside practicing in such heat? And why are you forcing them to stay out there until they die? And the coaches of the Professional Football League, NFL, came to us and said, how are we supposed to know when someone's in trouble? Because when you're practicing, everybody's red, everybody gets sweaty. We just don't know. Can you help us with this, NASA? We said, absolutely. We developed a thermometer pill for our astronauts because we have to monitor them through the course of their ascension and everything else. They swallow this thermometer pill. It goes down into the core of your body. It measures the core temperature. So as soon as your core temperature starts elevating above a certain amount, those coaches are watching each individual player and can say, okay, you're in trouble, get off the field, you need to come inside. You can also use it for deep sea divers when you get the confusion underwater and don't know which way is up and when you're going to come back, and it can potentially help there too. We have a search and rescue beacon that we have developed. This also just will help you if we get one pulse from your device, from the 4 satellites, just one pulse. We can find you wherever you are on the planet, and so many people have been saved using this capability. You saw also the James Webb Space Telescope presentation earlier with the beautiful images. We built that whole system at Goddard Space Flight Center working with our partners, Northrop Grumman and others for that particular mission. But in order for us to get the images that you've seen with that, you have to have very precise curvatures and very precise alignment of all of those mirrors. So we had to develop algorithms, wavefront sensing, so that we could measure and align those mirrors very precisely. We transferred that to folks who are in ophthalmology, and they can take 3 seconds to take 4 measurements now to be able to measure whether you have astigmatism, a farsightedness, nearsightedness, any of those objectives. And finally, the last example, we had some doctors that came to us and said, we have patients that are in line for a heart transplant. And unfortunately, they're not strong enough, their heart is not strong enough to be able to pump the blood all the way to their extremities, their hands and their feet. And they're passing before they're able to get the heart transplant. And it's the saddest because some of these are very, very small children. The pumps that we have today are too big for you to put inside a child's heart. Can you please help us with this? We said, absolutely. We do a lot of fluid dynamics using for fuel pumps. And there's not a whole lot of difference between blood and fuel. Of course, there are differences. But we worked with them to be able to develop these very, very small pumps that could be placed inside children's hearts and adults because it's just that efficient. These pumps have been saving lives for these young kids, and the parents are very, very happy because now when they put these pumps in, they're able to pump the blood and keep those patients alive until they can get their heart transplant. So one of the things that you noticed here is all of the examples that I used are people who have nothing to do with space. They are totally different, diverse things. So when you're looking at exploring a challenge or a problem, when you have a challenge or a problem, one of the most efficient ways that NASA has found to come up with revolutionary changes or real innovation is to get totally different people at the table, people looking through a totally different set of lenses. Because if you have people who have the same life experiences, the same backgrounds, they work in the same fields all the time, you're looking at a problem through a certain set of lenses. When I was working at the White House, we had the big oil spill. The people in the oil industry could not figure out how to get that cleaned up. But President Obama was like, okay, we've got to bring everybody to the table. Let's see if we can get the whole global community to help us figure this out, because we didn't want to kill the birds. We didn't want to change the ecosystem under the water because of that devastating oil spill. This is the way you come up with solutions for those revolutionary changes. You have to have diverse minds coming to the table looking at that. Together, if we unite for the extraordinary, we can achieve the impossible. Thank you very much.
Wow.
With 30 seconds to spare.
I was just going to say, you left this perfect message for us. Thank you so much. And with time to spare.
Absolutely.
So inspired.
So inspiring.
Thank you.
And I think the message also is we look at, when we think about diversity, we forget discipline, generation.
Yes.
It all matters to bring public and private partnerships together, ideas
Yes.
together. Thank you so much for sharing this with
Absolutely.
us.
My pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Christyl.
Thank you. Dr.